There were a total of 3 reinforcements that Yoo Hyuk invited. Beastmaster Shin Yoosung, Steel Sword Lee Hyunsung, and... Hyunsung-shi, please take Dokja-shi out of here. Ariadne's web shot through the air and placed me on Lee Hyunsung's back. A woman in a cat suit was running through the sky with Hermes' walking method. It was the incarnation of Olympus, Yoo Sangah. Yoosung, fire the breath from a long distance. Continue until Hyunsung-shi leaves. The Chimera Dragon roared and fired a breath. The Apocalypse Amugi screamed like it was quite painful. The constellation Master of Steel has given a great probability to his incarnation. The constellation Abandoned Lover of the Labyrinth is supporting her incarnation. The constellation Master of the Skywalk is supporting his incarnation. The constellations supporting Lee Hyunsung and Yoo Sangah seem to be struggling. Thanks to Yoo Sangah's commands, I was forcibly carried on Lee Hyunsung's shoulders. Lee Hyunsung-shi! Stay still, Dokja-shi! You don't have to do this. I can move now. Lee Hyunsung didn't loosen his hard arms at my words. The only thing he did was silently climb the gorge. Once the top of the gorge could be seen, Lee Hyunsung opened his mouth. Dokja-shi, have you ever thrown a grenade? Grenade? To use a grenade, you have to go through 3 steps. Remove the safety clip, remove the safety pin, and throw it. I know because I've thrown it in the training camp. Then you know how important the safety pin is for a grenade. I realized what Lee Hyunsung was trying to say. I lost the safety pin. Wasn't it in the bullet shell last time? I thought that I wouldn't lose it again. Lee Hyunsung turned his head and looked at me. Once the safety pin is inserted, it must be done well. Soon after, we reached the top of the gorge. At the bottom, Yoo Sangah and Shin Yoosung were riding the Chimera Dragon out of the gorge. I saw Shin Yoosung's brightly smiling face, and my heart felt complicated. Hyunsung-shi? Yes. I knew what Lee Hyunsung wanted to say. He'd been a soldier all his life, so this was the only way he could express it. Thank you for coming. I heard a sniffling sound, but pretended not to know anything. After a while, something rolled like an acorn and crashed into my leg. Ashishi! She hugged my tattered leg like it was precious. It's been a while, Yoosung. Shin Yoosung nodded vigorously with her face against my coat. I patted Shin Yoosung's back while Yoo Sangah approached. It's been a long time, Dokja-shi. Yes. Have you been well? Oh, that was a stupid question. Since the scenario started, no one could be well. You are the same, Dokja-shi. Yoo Sangah's smile wasn't false. Before the destruction of the world and after the destruction, Yoo Sangah was the only one who laughed at my jokes. The others, only we came. Hee-wan-shi and the kids wanted to come as well, but... I tossed the coin with Lee Gil-young and won! Shin Yoosung interrupted with a laugh. I see. My life was decided by throwing a coin. I stroked Shin Yoosung's head and said, Thank you, Yoo Sangah-shi. I was just thinking about going. There was a bad sign from Dokja-shi's good or bad luck, disaster or happiness fortune. Good or bad luck, disaster or happiness fortune? I knew this skill. There was only one constellation on the Korean peninsula who had it. Yes. It showed great misfortune. Soo-young and I were wondering about who should go when Yoo Hyuk contacted us. I roughly understood what was going on. I didn't think Han Soo-young and Yoo Sangah would throw a coin, so Yoo Sangah probably became because Han Soo-young had a problem. Han Soo-young seemed to be doing well with the job I entrusted to her. Soo-young-shi also wanted to come. Yes. Indeed. It was a lie. She disliked me. Then there was a rumbling sound from the bush. I was so excited to meet my companions again that I forgot the game wasn't over. I rushed through the forest area with the group and asked, Are you aware of the situation? Yoo Sangah nodded. I heard the story from Bi-hyung. Yoo Hyuk might be playing the tanker position with the ruler of amusement, but by now, his health would have almost reached the bottom. The second game would be decided here. The Chimera Dragon let out a burst of wind and the nearby trees collapsed. The battlefield where the constellations was fighting was clearly revealed. Yoo Hyuk! Yoo Hyuk glanced this way, from where he was surrounded by constellations. You're late. He was still arrogant, but the blood flowing from his body made it seem like he was dying. You! He has a sentence! Perhaps there was a special skill to determine this, as one constellation screamed. Apart from our team, the number of participants remaining was 6. Our side had only 5 people, including the new reinforcements. In addition, Yoo Jung-hyuk was in a state where he almost couldn't fight anyone. Go! As the all-out combat began, the constellation set up a formation centered around the founder of humanity and the general of Vinara. The first one to run towards them was the steel sword Lee Hyunsung. I won't lose it again! Lee Hyunsung flew forward and started to fight with the narrative-grade constellation Manu. Manu frowned like he was displeased to exchange blows with an incarnation. His powerful status burned at Manu's fingertips, and the steel shell was slightly softened, but Lee Hyunsung didn't back down. The constellation Master of Steel is looking at the founder of humanity. The founder of humanity was narrative grade, but so was the Master of Steel. I looked at the thorns of the steel transformation rising around Lee Hyunsung's body, and I could only guess how harsh the personal scenarios that he completed were. It wasn't a position that more than 10 incarnations could reach. The current Lee Hyunsung showed an overwhelming growth potential, more than the Lee Hyunsung of any other rounds. Yoo Sangah watched the same scene and also ran forward. I'll take Olympus. This girl, are you crazy? King Oedipus discovered Yoo Sangah. The two of them both belonged to Olympus. However, based on what I heard from Dionysus, Olympus was currently in the middle of a civil war. Master of the Skywalk, you're making the wrong choice right now. I didn't know the exact situation, but it was obvious that a group led by Dionysus and Hermes was trying to be independent from the existing Olympus. Yoo Sangah started fighting with the King Oedipus while Shin Yoosung moved the Chimera Dragon. The condensed breath covered the battlefield. The constellations who couldn't avoid it screamed. There are 10 minutes remaining. The second round was reaching its end. At this moment, the points of each team were almost equal. The constellations were desperate. Several constellations headed towards the Chimera Dragon, and the dragon and Shin Yoosung were in a crisis. The dragon wasn't able to use its force because it consumed quite a lot of power when dealing with the Apocalypse of Mugi. A hatchling! It's only big! It would be our side that was disadvantageous if this round ended in a draw. The game would flow into the third game, and if we didn't win, we would have to deal with the constellations on a stage where the penalty had disappeared. Yoo Jung-hyuk knew this fact and pointed to the Duke Birkin. Kill the Duke. He has the sentence. I nodded. I will create a path. Yoo Jung-hyuk squeezed out his magic power and used the breaking the sky swordsmanship. They're aiming for the sentence! Yoo Jung-hyuk slashed and slashed again to create a road. He used his last force to draw a huge semicircle on the ground, and the constellations rushed to him. I'll leave it to you, Kim Dokja. Yoo Jung-hyuk was pierced in the heart by Manu's spear. The helper, Yoo Jung-hyuk, has been killed. He stood upright, even at the moment of death. The constellations turned to me after Yoo Jung-hyuk disappeared. The primitive spear and a ray of light headed my way. However, the bombardment didn't reach me. Dokja-shi! Lee Hyunsung activated steel transformation to block the attacks of the constellations. The hot heat and the shock would be terribly painful, but Lee Hyunsung seemed more energetic. Duke Birkin could be seen in the distance. There are 5 minutes remaining. Hyunsung-shi, throw me. It isn't possible. Doing that again. You have to throw the grenade after pulling out the safety pin. I stared into Lee Hyunsung's shaky eyes. Even if I die here, I won't really die. The real death was losing this Demon King selection. Lee Hyunsung watched for a while before closing and opening his eyes. Lee Hyunsung's eyes returned to that of a soldier. I won't believe your lie again. No, now isn't the time to be stubborn. If you die, we will die together. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire is greatly pleased. I must do this! And Lee Hyunsung started running with me on his back. Manu was hit by the rushing Lee Hyunsung and rolled on the floor like a bowling pin. Cheeky incarnation! No one was able to stop the berserk Lee Hyunsung. At least it looked like that. Proud child. As I said earlier, it is barely history. Lee Hyunsung's movements were stopped by a powerful status. The supreme god of light, Surya, had recovered his strength and was blocking the way. His third eyes might not work properly, but he was still a Lokapala of Vedas. He had the power to stop us. His forearms moved and the entire ground shook as the running Lee Hyunsung was pushed back. He tried running again, but the same thing repeated. A place where you are standing now is a place for humans. A human who keeps repeating the same mistakes. I triggered electrification from Lee Hyunsung's back. My fist stretched out and struck Surya's torso. Even so, Surya didn't budge. The transparent shield created by the 4 arms smothered all my attacks. Only this much. Are you really trying to see the end of the scenario? It was the power to deny all the history I had accumulated. Electrification and the white pure star energy did not work. The times have changed. Only this much history. There was such a gap despite only 30% of his power being available. What would happen if 100% of the power was opened? Then a new voice was heard. Don't ignore Ajashi! Shin Yoosung shouted from the head of the Chimera Dragon. The breath poured out at Shin Yoosung's signal. Surya swept his arms and scattered the breath. Lee Hyunsung leapt through this gap. His steel transformation body collided with Surya. Surya, who had been unmoved by countless attacks, shook for the first time. Wah! Lee Hyunsung swung his fist towards Surya like a madman. Lee Hyunsung didn't stop despite the steel transformation around his fist cracking, blood splashing, and bones breaking. The 73rd Demon Realm is responding to the will of you and your helpers. A new story about you was being made. The humans' will to challenge a god was causing cracks in the defensive wall. A little break. It was a very small crack that human history created. Hyunsung-shi! Lee Hyunsung and I didn't miss this gap. As if throwing a grenade, Lee Hyunsung threw my body that had become small through miniaturization. I broke through the barrier created by Surya's arms and rushed to Duke Birkin. Duke Birkin turned his head with surprise while I activated and my side pierced his neck. The participant Demon King of Salvation has killed the participant Duke Birkin. I did it. Along with a triumphant victory, countless system messages flowed into my head. Before I could read the messages, a power squeezed at me. At the last moment, I saw Surya's face. You have died.